Actually getting a child over the hump, through the finish line, correcting their sound completely 100% of the time in their speech can be the hardest part. Learning the sound and then learning to put it in words and phrases and sentences sometimes goes very smoothly, and then you hit this roadblock of, but they don't actually say it outside of the therapy room in their conversational speech and daily life. If you have a child who has been working on correcting a speech sound and they can now say it correctly in their words, their phrases, and in their sentences, but when it comes to conversational speech or spontaneous speech, they start to use their old sound again, then this can be because they lack some of the awareness skills to help get them over the finish line of mastering that sound in their speech. So today I'm going to give you some tips on how I help children completely master a sound and carry it over into their conversational speech. The first thing I like to do is make sure that I've built their awareness. If I am constantly telling them to correct their sound or to say it again, then that's just become part of the routine. They say it, I tell them to say it again, they say it again correctly, and then we move on. But that is not the routine that I want to teach. I want to make sure that the child has some intrinsic motivation and awareness to listen for their own mistakes or their own productions of their old sound so that they can correct it on their own and say their new sound correctly. So these are some ways that I like to build their awareness. And again, this is after they have completely mastered saying the new sound up to sentences, whether they're old enough to read the sentence or they are just repeating my sentences. So I will actually tell them, okay, I'm going to say some sentences. I'm going to say some words, and I want you to tell me when you hear me saying it incorrectly or saying it with the old sound. And hopefully what this does, the goal of it, is to help them build their intrinsic motivation for wanting to listen to their own speech productions and make sure that it's correct and that they're using their new sound, because they see and they hear what it's like when someone uses the old sound, and they understand that it's noticeable, and they understand how it makes someone pay attention to the way you're saying something rather than just listening to the message that's coming across. This also helps just sort of even the playing field so that it's not always me correcting them and telling them they're doing it wrong and telling them to say it again, but it makes it more fun and even more natural because it helps them understand why I'm having them say it again, and just makes it, like I said, more fun and just evens the playing field so that we're all in this together. The other thing that I will do when we're practicing some conversational or spontaneous speech is, instead of just telling them say it again, I will demonstrate for them or model for them what it sounded like. And again, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to build the child's awareness. So let's say that they have a frontal lisp. Let's say that the sentence is, I didn't go to school this Saturday. I would say it just like that. I would say, I heard you say this. And I would say the sentence. Is that what you meant to say? And then have them repeat it with their new sound. Okay, the next way that I will try to build their awareness and also increase their confidence is by using a visual cue, again, rather than just saying, say it again, or use your new sound, because those are like maximum supports. You're telling someone exactly what to do. But instead, to make the child more aware, more independent with correcting their sound or saying their new sound, you can have a visual cue. So this could either be something that is printed out. It might be the actual letter for the sound that's printed out, and you might hold it up when you hear that old sound as a cue to say it again, say the new sound. Or you could even choose something that is very natural and conducive to the daily environment. So maybe it would be like a shake your ear or something like that, or you could make it anything you want it to be. And then you could even tell the family, if they're on board as well, to do that whenever they hear the child using the old sound, so that it's very comfortable for them. And instead of being corrected all the time, they just see this cue and they're like, oh, I used my old sound. Let me say that again. Let me correct it. Actually getting a child over the hump, through the finish line, correcting their sound completely 100% of the time in their speech can be the hardest part. Learning the sound and then learning to put it in words and phrases and sentences sometimes goes very smoothly. And then you hit this roadblock of, but they don't actually say it outside of the therapy room in their conversational speech and daily life. Tip that I have is to use conversational and spontaneous speech activities that are still structured in a way, because the whole point of the activity is to think about using the new sound and to practice using the new sound. But it's not when you're out and about thinking about other things and talking in the midst of that, but it's a time that you come and you focus on this one objective. And you're just having conversational and spontaneous speech while you're doing it. I am going to link in the description down below a PDF of different activities and games that you can use to help your child have more conversational and spontaneous speech. Because I don't know if you ever tried it, but it's actually kind of hard to have a conversation with a child that just keeps going and going, and you have them say a lot of information. Maybe it just depends on the child, but sometimes you ask a child something and they just respond with a couple words. But in order to practice this, you need to draw it out and keep the conversation going. So I have a PDF with some fun activities that you can use to help your child with that. But one way that we're going to practice using our new sound and encouraging the child to use their new sound while we're doing the conversational speech activities is you're going to take something that you have a lot of, like sticky notes or cars, maybe something that's just a small object that you have a lot of, and you're going to lay them out in front of the child, and you're going to tell them, okay, I am going to put all of these sticky notes in front of you, and your objective is to keep all the sticky notes. That's how you win the game. You want to keep as many sticky notes as you can. And when I ask you these questions, I want you to use your new sound while you're talking. If I hear you use the old sound, I'll take a sticky note away. So as you're talking, think about your new sound and using it, and you'll keep all of your sticky notes. So then every time they say an old sound, you just take one away, and that's building their awareness. One way that I'll explain this is like if you're talking and you're trying to use a new sound, but you use the old sound and something happens, sometimes for a child, that's just like naturally like a positive reinforcement type thing, like psychologically, because something is happening every time that you say that sound. So it's actually drawing more attention to that old sound and sort of reinforcing it in a way. And so we want to switch this by doing the opposite, so that every time they use their new sound, you give them a sticky note. So you're providing positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement by taking it away every time. So, but like I said, every child is different. So you can take the child that you're working with or the child of your own and think about them and see what might work best for them. You could also use the visual cue that you've established when they use their old sound in their responses during these activities so that they can correct it on their own. So these are just some of my go-to ways that I help children carry over their new speech sounds or generalize it into their everyday speech. Please share with me some of your favorite tips so that I can learn as well and others can learn from you down in the comments below. If this video helped you, then please consider liking and subscribing so that I can make more videos just like this to help families just like yours.